Hi, my name is Amber Robinson, and I'm a financial education coach at Prosperity Connection. Prosperity Connection is a non-for-profit in St. Louis area that focuses on financial literacy and education. Every service that we provide is free, so if you need help with something like credit counseling or helping with identity theft or putting a budget together or getting home ownership ready, those are all things that we can help you with. Today we're going to be doing a class on identity theft. So last week we talked about what identity theft was with Hope. This week we're talking about how to clean up identity theft with me. So I hope you enjoy this presentation. We've got presentations weekly, and I'd really love for you to be a part of the conversation. So let's talk about identity theft, because really it's not a matter of if you get identity theft. It really is a matter of when. Unfortunately, identity theft is one of the fastest growing crimes in America. It happens about every 2 seconds. So how do you even know that you've gotten become a victim of identity theft? Sometimes you don't. So there's a few things that you can do to make sure that you're doing everything that you can to protect yourself from identity theft. And one of those things is, please review your statements. There's multiple reasons why you should review your statements. Any number of things could happen, whether it be an accidental overcharge, or it could be potentially fraud, but you won't know if you don't review your transactions. And you don't have an unlimited amount of time to tell the bank or to tell the credit card companies that you've been the victim of fraud or identity theft, or that you have a dispute that you need to make. You usually only have 60 days. So, and let me tell you the difference between fraud and a dispute. A dispute is a general type of thing. It could be maybe you were overcharged, maybe you were double charged, but it's something that you initiated and that you know about. Fraud is different. Usually fraud is something that you know nothing about. You've never done business with the company at all. You've never heard of the company at all. And your information was gotten illegally and used illegally. But you wouldn't know that if you don't review your bank and credit cards transactions very carefully. So please log into your apps, take care of it, just look at it every other day. Not hurt. Also, you're going to want to get a copy of your credit reports. So there's 3 major credit reports that you're going to want to get a copy of: Equifax, Experian, and TransUnion. So you can go to these individual websites and you can pay for them so that you can see your credit score. Or if you just want to see the copy of your report without a score, it's just going to have all the information from all the creditors that you've done business with. You can go to annualcreditreport.com and you can get it for free. I would recommend getting it for free. You really don't need a score unless you are trying to buy something. It's good to know your score, have a general idea, but for these purposes, for fixing problems or just knowing that problems exist, having just a copy of your report without the score will tell you everything that you need to know. And if there's anything on that report that doesn't look like it's yours, you have to take action immediately. So if there are errors on your report, write a dispute letter and send it certified mail to each of the credit bureaus. And then keep copies of the letters and the receipts that the credit bureaus give you. So I am going to get off of this screen, and I'm going to show you a copy of a dispute letter that we sometimes write for our clients. So I would fill this in with the client information. So we've got the name, their street address, their zip code, and it does help that if their license matches what's on here, so hopefully everything's up to date on their license, the date on which it occurred. Now this one could be for fraud, and if so, you're just going to write attention fraud, or it could be for a dispute. Say there was a mistake or something was put on your credit report twice, then you wouldn't put fraud on there, you would just write dispute. And then it just says, to whom it may concern, I recently received a copy of my credit report, and I wish to dispute the accuracy of some of the information contained on the report. Please correct this, and here's why. And then here's the items that you want corrected, the account, and why you want that either deleted or or revised or fixed. And then down below, it tells us that due to the Fair Credit Reporting Act, these disputes must be reinvestigated or deleted from our credit report record within 30 days. That's the law. In the interim, they should be noted on my credit record or report as in dispute. And I'm also requesting the names and addresses and telephone numbers of the individuals you contacted during your investigation so that I may follow up if necessary. So this is just making sure that we have all the information that we could possibly have so that we can do our dispute and we can contact the people that we need to contact. If it is determined through your investigation that disputed items are inaccurate, please correct my file and send me a notification that the information has been updated or deleted. I'm also requesting an updated copy of my credit report, which should be sent to the address listed above according to the provisions, and this has to do with the Fair Reporting Act again. There should be no charge for this report. Like I said, there might not be a credit score on there because that's kind of something that they've decided to hold back, and if you want to pay more, you can get it. But it should be your full report, and you can take a look at it and make sure everything on there is correct, accurate, and everything's accounted for. Don't forget to put your phone number at the bottom. From there, you're going to want to sign it with a wet signature and date it, and of course, type your name. And don't forget to put the last 4 digits of your social security number so that they can tell that it's you. My name's Amber Robinson. I'm sure there's more than one Amber Robinson in the St. Louis area. So the way that they would identify me past that is through my social security number. Sometimes they'll ask for something like a bank statement. So the most recent bank statement just gives them a little bit extra data so that they can verify that it's you. And you're also going to want to send a copy of your license. Most updated, has to be, it can't be expired, but that should be enough information for them to verify your identity. And then from there, they can take a look at your credit report and address the issues that you are complaining to them about, and they should be able to fix it. So we're going to go back to that presentation, but that's just a kind of a general overview of how to write a fraud, either a fraud letter or a dispute letter to the credit agencies. And then if we go back here, so we're getting a copy of our credit reports. We're writing dispute letters. Don't forget to keep copies of the letters and whatever they send back to you. And then once you do those dispute letters, you can send them to the addresses, and those are all on their websites, which are seen right here on this screen. So another thing that you can do is you can place a fraud alert with one of the 3 credit bureaus. So they actually do talk to each other. So if you send a fraud alert with TransUnion, they will actually pass along that information to Equifax and Experian. And all that's saying is, hey, be extra cautious. There's been potential fraud on their social security number and on their credit report. And that has been alerted to the credit bureaus, so they're going to be extra cautious about any other potentially opening accounts that are going to happen on that social security number and on that name. So another thing that you're going to want to do is you're going to want to report it to the FTC, and that is on identitytheft.gov. So this slide gives you a little bit about what's going on, but I actually do want to go to that website because it's a great website. And here it is. So there's a couple ways that you can do this. You can get started, and so you can tell them what happened to you. So maybe it happened at a bank, maybe it happened with a utility, maybe it happened with taxes. You tell them what happened, they'll give you a to-do list of things. You start working on that to-do list, and your credit, or not your credit, but your identity should be recovered through that to-do list. So it's very cool. But if you don't want to do it that way, you can just browse recovery steps, and then it'll tell you exactly what to do. So call the companies where your fraud occurred. So we already looked up our credit report, so that's how we know what companies the fraud occurred. Place a fraud alert on and get your credit reports. We already talked about that. report identity theft to the FTC, and that was what you would do on this particular website. And then lastly, and we're going to have a slide on this, you can file a report with your local police department. And we'll talk more about that in a second. So what to do next? So you're going to want to close any new accounts opened in your name and remove any bogus charges from your accounts. You're going to want to correct your credit report. And consider adding an extended fraud alert or credit freeze. And I actually just did this a couple of months ago. I froze my credit, and I can't tell you how easy it was. It probably took me 15 minutes to freeze all 3 credit bureaus. They make it pretty easy. It's pretty much all online. You just follow the directions, and I would absolutely recommend it. So now when the time comes and I need to use my credit for something, I'm going to have to contact all 3 credit bureaus to get my credit unfrozen before any financial institution pulls my credit report. But I prefer that. My credit's in good shape. I don't want anything to mess it up or wreck it. So, and I don't go applying for credit willy-nilly. It's always a very calculated situation when I'm applying for credit. So I would recommend anybody freeze their credit, and just make sure that you keep tabs on the passwords for all that information. And then review your credit reports often. And this is something that we at Prosperity Connection love to preach, but just a reminder, you're going to want to take a look at your credit reports, all 3, at least once a year. And you can do it every 4 months. That way, you do your TransUnion, wait 4 months, you do Experian, wait 4 months, you do Equifax, wait 4 months. That way they're kind of all spread out. But it's a very good idea for you to check your credit reports regularly. And you can also do that in the form of an app. Say, for instance, if you've got like a Credit Karma, that is good for educational purposes, and making sure that nothing is on your credit report that you don't want on there, or there's no mistakes on there. But those credit scores aren't usually synced up with the credit scores that you'll find at banks and financial institutions. Just so you know, because they're scored a little bit differently when you talk about Credit Karma. So review your credit reports often, and then there's a few other possible steps that they ask. So if you have a misused Social Security number, you should probably report that with the Social Security Administration. If you are in a situation where debt collectors are trying to get you money or trying to get money from you, and it was a stolen identity, you don't owe the debt. So here's a sample letter that you can write to them telling them that your identity was stolen. Contact the businesses where fraudulent accounts were opened and explain to them that debt's not yours, and tell them to stop reporting it. And if you haven't already, ask the bureaus to block information about this debt from your credit report. And then anything else that you might need to do, so you might need to replace your government-issued IDs. So especially if your Social Security card was stolen or your driver's license was stolen, you're going to probably have to go get all those replaced. And lastly, there are certain steps for certain accounts, and this website just gives you a good overview of what to do if your identity was stolen for utilities, phones, government benefits, and that could also include the IRS, checking accounts, student loans, investment accounts, bankruptcies added in your name. And then there's special forms for tax identity theft, child identity theft, and medical identity theft. So it really does have an intense amount of information. And maybe your identity theft does not include all of these things, but it's nice that they're all in one place so that you can really get a good idea and thoroughly check your identity to make sure there's nothing else that could possibly be lurking in the shadows. So I'm going to close that. We're going to open this. So, that's identitytheft.gov. It's a very great website. And then, so when we already talked about this, we're going to contact the fraud department of each business where the account was affected, explain someone stole your identity, ask them to close your account, and then ask them to send you a letter confirming that the account isn't yours and you're not liable for it. And do keep this letter. So anytime you're doing any kind of work on your credit, you're going to want to have a file where every single item that you've been disputing or every single item that if it's a bill that you've got or a collection or anything like that, you're going to want a place where all of that stuff is. So because unfortunately, sometimes credit bureaus don't have great records, or even worse, collection companies might be trying to put that back on there because that's kind of how collection companies are. They're kind of nefarious. So having your receipts is very important, and also make sure of who you talked with, because maybe that phone call is on a recorded line, and you might need that information for extenuating circumstances in the future. So try to be as organized and detailed as possible when you're doing this, so that you're not having to do double work, or you're not having to be in a situation where you have to redispute something that's gotten put on there. You have access to that paperwork so that you can keep your credit in good condition. And then file a police report. So we kind of talked about this on that website. You're going to want to go to the local police with a photo ID, a copy of your FTC identity report, and any proof you have of theft. So that could be bills, IRS, notices, and tell the police that someone stole your identity and you need to file a report. And then ask for a copy of the police report. And here's the only other thing I would say about that. If you know who stole your identity, just know going to the police is going to affect them. Unfortunately, sometimes identity theft happens within the family. If you know that your brother or your aunt or somebody, your roommate, has stolen your identity, just realize that when you go to the police, you're putting the law in play when it comes to them, and that could really break familial ties. It might be necessary to do in order to not be in a situation where you have to pay the debt. So you're going to have to balance that out. But anytime you go to the police and you file a report, that could mean consequences for the other person. So just know, and unfortunately, we live in a day and age where sometimes family members steal each other's identities. If you don't want, your brother or your aunt or whoever stole your identity to go to jail, you probably don't want to get the police involved. Now, if you have a situation where it's thousands upon thousands of dollars in debt, and it's been a habitual situation, you got to do what you got to do. You got to take care of yourself first. That person knows that what they did was wrong, and they've got to own up to it. But Thanksgiving might be a little rough for you, so keep that in mind. And remember, ultimately, protecting your identity is up to you. We can do everything we possibly can, and from a financial institution standpoint, to make sure that your information is safe. But you've got to take care of it yourself. And that might mean not walking around with your social security card. That might mean being better about shredding your credit card statements. That might mean making sure that you keep all of your files in a very secure location where your roommate or your family can't get to it. But it is up to you, and it affects only you. Having your identity stolen affects you. So it's up to you to take the reins and start working on fixing it, because the consequences are yours and yours alone. Maybe your spouse's as well. Thank you for coming. I hope you enjoyed this presentation. If you have any additional questions, please contact Prosperity Connection. We would love to do one-on-one coaching with you. If you have any ideas for future classes or anything that you need help with, please just give us a call, or you can go to our website at www.prosperityconnection.org. Thank you.